Before I get started, I do consulting on where you can move. I'll work with you to find the perfect place for you to move to. There's more information at the end of the video about that. Now let's get started. There's nothing like July out on the great American prairie. They say Kansas is so flat you can watch your dog run away for days. Technically, this place is flatter than a pancake. Somebody actually measured it, although there's rolling hills throughout. It's very blue and green out in the middle of nowhere in America in the summertime, and I think you should all see what that looks like. I spent 5 years in the rural Midwest, but I haven't shown you what it looks like in the sunshine. And I haven't let you hear what the people think about what's happening here either. Along the way, we'll see some good and some bad. Nothing's perfect. But this isn't going to be an expose on anything wrong, although we'll talk about issues. I think this is going to be a Is Rural America the Last Best Place Left series. I know what I'm expecting to see way out here in no man's land. I certainly know what I hope to see. I hope you guys get a chance to see it too. And by the end of it all, you're either going to be really bored or fascinated by life way out this way. But there's interesting if you look hard enough. Right now, we're just outside of Kansas City, Kansas. We're on our way to our next stop, a small town called Sabetha, population 2550. So where in the world are we? Right here. This is about 2 hours from Kansas City and about 20 minutes from the Nebraska border. It's just about as far away from a large city as you can get in this country. Out here, the roads are as straight as they can make them. It's corn on one side and beans on the other. The only skyscrapers are farm buildings. Tractor traffic is the only real setback on your journey in these parts. Many of the roads are gravel. Some aren't even that. A lot of churches dot the landscape. A majority are Protestant churches, but there's lots of Catholics out here too. Of all of Kansas's counties, 60% of them have less than 10,000 people. Kansas has 572 cities, and 103 of them have less than 3,000 people. Right now, we're pulling into one of them. This is little Sabetha, Kansas, just 5 minutes from Nebraska. They say Kansas is the least visited state in America. Well, I'm visiting it, and that's something, right? I figured the people here in Sabetha would probably be surprised that I'm here. And I was right. They were very curious about why I chose this place. I mean, I could have picked one of 100 cities like this in Kansas, and they'd all be kind of the same. Some small Kansas towns are hanging on. Some are dying. A few are thriving. Most have the same elements to them. Some churches, a few small restaurants, a small grocery store, a hardware store, a bank, and a few dive bars. Many are no stoplight towns. Sabetha is one of them. Most of what you'll see surrounding rural Kansas is corn, soybeans, and wheat. Sometimes you can drive an hour through cornfields before you come to another small town like this. Rural Kansas once was a thriving, exciting place to be, but that was ages ago when speculators were gobbling up land and cities sprang up in a month. Today there's still farms all over, but many are dominated by a few large-scale companies. A lot of the independent farmers out here scrape by, some break even. Many lose money these days. A few get subsidies from the government or welfare to help mitigate the losses in production. So small farmers are in a bit of trouble out here. Like out west, farmers here are worried about drought and climate change. If they ever do run out of water in the heartland, at risk is 20% of the world's grain, 40% of our nation's beef, and 40% of our country's fruits, nuts, and vegetables. It's just less profitable for the smaller guys. And kids sure don't want to do it anymore. Now you might wonder why people choose to live in a place like Sabetha. Well, lots of people are choosing not to live in a rural area of the state. 80 counties in Kansas have seen a population decline. And Kansas is one of 18 states that saw its population decline last year. It was only a loss of 5,000 people, but it could be a troublesome sign. The kids just don't want to stick around anymore. Most places have slow internet, a lack of jobs, nothing to do. Meth is a big deal in many small Kansas towns. That doesn't help. But Sabetha's been lucky. its population's managed to remain exactly the same for the last decade. Look at that graph. It's just about as flat as it can get. In talking with folks here, they say there's lots of good paying jobs. In fact, there's more jobs than people here. There's a few factories in the area, but Sabetha specializes in making dog food. But these companies can't grow. The biggest reason people aren't moving to small towns like this is there aren't any available homes out here. There's a very limited supply for out-of-towners who want to come and work or just scale down their lifestyle. Most developers won't just build 20 homes, and the waiting list for those who will is years long. And I heard this over and over from small town leaders who struggle to grow their communities. It's a theme that I'm going to touch on throughout this series. When they can find available housing, places like this are becoming a big draw for people on the coast who want safety and a cheaper lifestyle. You can be ambitious here at a reasonable scale. It's just a matter of deciding what you're going to have and not have. Downtown Sabetha looks like something from Norman Rockwell. It's super clean and charming. You wouldn't see any shootings or BLM riots here, I'll tell you that. There's no homeless people laying on these sidewalks. There's some missing storefronts here, but they're not boarded up, and they're definitely not broken out. The average cost of a home here is $135,000, and that's 3 times cheaper than the average U.S. home. Right now, we're in the cheap side of town based on home prices. This house just sold for $40K not too long ago. You could probably live here and have a really decent life if you wanted to be away from people and still have friends. Here's the most expensive home in town. This home just sold for $390,000. And I bet you're thinking, just wow. I know, you could have the most expensive house in town with a big chunk of land for far less than what you're paying for right now. But your road wouldn't be paved. I'm sure the kids here are bored. Yes, there's hunting and fishing and outdoors, but there's really little else. That's why 18-year-olds are leaving in droves. There just isn't a good reason to stay unless you're in agriculture or you're waiting to die. People in Kansas don't want to change just for change. If there's a sensible reason for change, then they'll change. It's a lot of guns and church and a whole lot of pork and steaks for dinner in places like Sabetha, and clearly a lot of bumpy roads. Most folks out here are polite, they're friendly and down to earth. Many have common sense. They enjoy the simple things in life: church, potlucks, looking at sunflowers, watching storms blow in, backyard barbecuing. They listen to bugs, and they talk to the horses. They enjoy the smell of cut grass. For some people, this is heaven out here. If you're bored here, it's probably just that you're a boring person, or nobody wants to hang out with you. I mean, the whole state's a small town where everybody knows everybody. So if you want a private life, you'd better be really private. I'd imagine that wouldn't be for everyone. It's pretty safe here. In small towns, you can't screw one another because those are your neighbors, so it kind of keeps people in check. If you get into it with somebody, folks don't pull a gun out. They'll likely just go out and wrestle in the tassel. The state of Kansas isn't for everyone. It's very conservative in these smaller places, and a lot of these people go to Sunday service regularly. If you're gay or black or believe in pro-life, you just might not have many friends. That's just how it is. Of course, every small town of the Midwest has to have a Casey's. So, to be the best journalist I can, I need to tell you which of these states has the best Casey's pizza, right? It's too early to make a judgment, since this is my first Casey's pizza, but I can say it's as good as I remember.
Did you know one slice of Casey's pizza has 443 calories?
Uh-oh. It's actually not that bad, Mappy. 2 of those and a Mountain Dew, and I'd fit right in these parts.
I don't eat pizza. It's bad for you.
Really? Because lately you've been looking like a pizza face. Out of order? What? Dang. While out and about in Sabetha, I saw a lot. I mean, I spent the whole day here. Of course, I went to the damn bars in town. Come on now. That's where you meet the real people and learn the most about a place. I spent a lot of time at Scooters. Totally my kind of place. I mean, they have a bathtub urinal in the men's room. You can't get any more rural bar than that. Peeing in a damn bathtub. It's a great bar with friendly people. And look at the prices on that menu. I'm pretty sure you can't get stuff that cheap in the big city you live in. Too bad they raised the price on shots and pizza. But 75-cent eggs and dollar pops? The regulars in there taught me a game called Shit Ass. It's a game played on a snooker table. I could explain the rules, but it would take too long. Roaming around in the general area, and you can really stumble onto a lot of new experiences. There's a lot of great deals on clothes in small towns like this, especially if you're a grandma. 50 cents? I almost bought it. Actually, before the trip, I thought about getting a few pairs of these, but the person traveling with me advised against it. Why? I don't know. I think I'd have fit in. This is really neat. A big shot trucking company owner built a real field of dreams on his property. They say he spent $1 million turning his former cornfield into a perfect baseball stadium. It draws people from all over the Western Hemisphere. Folks around here say this is the best damn ball field in the state of Kansas, and I'd be hard-pressed to disagree. And look, they have a cool little backyard rodeo here in town. If you had dreams of being a real cowboy, you'd love this, but you need to find a place to live first, because, remember, housing is in short supply. I know, it sucks. The local weather kept reminding everybody about how hot it was the day I was there, so a lot of the stuff I did was indoors. I visited Sabetha's downtown coffee cafe. Look at that menu. I got the chicken pesto panini, but I forgot to take a picture of it before it was gone. I also spent time at Brick Street. It's a funky, surprisingly modern restaurant / antique store. Great ambiance here. See, people, there's a little bit of fancy in small town Kansas. Turns out I just missed the annual community celebration, and you can bet I was disappointed by that. The mow grass, burn grass, and spend cash giveaway sounded like a real blast, as did the cornhole competition, where you can win a riding lawnmower, although I'd have no practical way to get it home. I've never seen this before. A Dollar General, a Dollar Tree, and a Family Dollar all in the same parking lot. Well, as I'd soon learn, that's a thing now in the rural parts of this country. These dollar store trifectas are running mom and pops out in droves, like 3 big retail bullies. I stayed at the Rock Creek Hotel, the only place in town that isn't a crack den. You can watch crop dusting from your room. The breakfast was to be desired, though, because sadly, there was none. It's like this pretty much all over the state. You can turn a corner anywhere and see the same thing over and over. Just small towns that dot the landscape, separated by nothing but straight roads and crops. And you think Sabetha's small. This here is a little place called Kelly, Kansas. Look, Google Maps didn't even go here, so as far as I knew, maybe this place didn't even exist. There's 27 people who live here. This is an extreme version of rural living, I have to say. Apparently all 27 people in town are old and white and drive alone? Aw, that's sad. Why don't they carpool? I wondered what the people over in Sabetha did for fun, but these people clearly have a hard time even finding somebody to talk to. I bet people here don't lock their doors. There's no doubt who done it in these parts. Plus, I'm sure everybody here has a damn gun. Kind of seems like the kind of place where one of them might be a retired sheriff. I bet they mow each other's yards, too. Most of rural Kansas is quiet, very safe, calm, and friendly. I suppose it's worth it, the trade-off and all. Slow and peaceful life out on the plains is what they want. These folks feel big cities are overrated. It was once said, Kansas is a great place to be from. That could be true, but it was also said, there's nothing like a Kansas sunset. There's a lot of beauty to appreciate in this flat nothing if you look for it. It's not so bad out here. There's less idiots per square mile. And there's certainly worse things than being surrounded by cows and cornfields. Roam around the nooks and crannies of Kansas, and you might be surprised by what you find. You know, stuff like this. The world's biggest baseball. That's here, too.
Big thing is we have over a lot of small towns, we have a lot of industry in town, which at one time, I haven't tested lately, but we had more jobs in town than we had people, which is very unusual, which is a nice thing to have, but we're kind of unique in that situation.
Why would that be?
Just a big industry base. A lot of industry, and a lot of them broke off of one of our main industries in town, and a bunch of them broke off of that. And we've had several startups. I think there's a lot of things. You got to a lot of good quality people and a lot of good work ethic around here, and things have just kind of taken off.
What are the industries that?
Most of them are food oriented. Probably the biggest one lately is the winger manufacturer right across the street from the city hall. It's was kind of the starter, and about all of them. The rest of the industries in town have a tie to that, to somewhat. They all had employees come in here that had an idea and broke off of that and went somewhere else and started a new industry, a new companies. But most of them are some sort of food-based, pet food or human food, either one. So
like manufacturing.
Yeah, Winger manufactures an extruder that extrudes food, different types of foods and pet foods, and and they all kind of stem off of that.
What do those jobs pay usually? Like average?
It's hard to say. For around here, above average, I would say. When you talk back east, it wouldn't be a good wage, but for here, it's a pretty nice living. 50,000 starts.
Yeah, $50K a year, and it probably costs $150 for a house, $200.
Yeah, we get you a pretty good, decent house.
Yeah,
at $150,000, $200,000. So yeah, it's a good living.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about so let's say somebody wants to move here and they have a white collar type, not blue collar.
Yeah.
What would they do?
A lot of engineering positions in these kinds of several engineering. We have two controls, automated controls companies, and they hire all engineers. Most of the industry have engineer jobs too that come with it. So. And
I'd imagine it's hard to get people to. It's hard to find people to work like it is anywhere else. So they're probably hiring right now.
Yeah, I think every industry or every business in town would hire right now. The city itself would be hiring people if we have them come through. So
why aren't people moving to small town Kansas? What's the problem here?
I don't know. It's just kind of a way of living. A lot of people like the city life and where they're at. We did a test on the industries in town, and a lot of them had people drive in from an hour away to work there. But their ability to keep those people improve greatly if they can get them in the area. Because let's face it, if you drive for an hour one way for 3 or 4 years, if something pops up, you're more apt to move.
Mm-hmm. Do you hear from more people interested in moving to small towns after COVID and after remote work and after people are getting sick of the shootings and the crime and all the shit that happens all over in big cities? Are you getting more?
Yeah, I think more and more like we're trying to work remotely. I mean, that's becoming a big thing, and they like to go to small towns when they work remotely and get into small town living it that way. Mm-hmm. But you still have the people that like the city life, and you have the people that like the small town life. So you're always going to have the other big. We have a housing problem. We don't have enough houses right now. It's hard to find a house. If a house goes on the market, it usually sells in a day or two. So, but that's kind of everywhere around here right now. I know in Kansas, it's pretty normal to have that battle.
Is that a new problem?
Yeah, it's just kind of that. I think the way the economy's heading right now, it might slow that down a little bit. But I know my son moved back here from Kansas City, but when he was looking for houses in Kansas City, the realtors basically told him, if you see a house, you bid that day. And most houses are on the market for a day or two.
So people are moving they are interested in Kansas. Yeah. More in the last couple of years. Yeah, so maybe there is a shift in, I mean, clearly if you're saying it's hard to get a home here and there's more interest and then there's homes available, then that's a good problem to have, as opposed to you got an empty house on every block. Yeah,
it's a nice problem to have. It's the way you want it, but it's kind of hard though to keep, just like everybody's looking for employees. Several of our industries, this is just one of their branches, and they branched off into other areas. I've had several of them talk to me lately about how they're looking to expand. They can't here because they can't find the employees.
So you can't get enough people to work.
Yeah.
there aren't enough homes.
Yeah.
It's almost like, how are you gonna?
And it's
You have to build more houses then?
Yeah, and we're working on it. We're trying to get subdivisions going up and going, but it's hard to be a subdivider in a small town
surrounded by corn.
Well, you can. If you go to Topeka and you have a subdivision, you can sell it out in 3 years. You can't sell it out in 3 years in Sabetha. I mean, you just don't have.
They won't build a 150 home subdivision knowing that they're only going to fill it up 25 of them the first 5 years.
Yeah, it just takes some time to get it done. And it makes it a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. How would you do that? Do you have to buy out a farmer's crop? So say you want to put it on the edge of town. There's a farm out there. How does that even happen?
You buy it out, and you just start,
just building.
Yeah, get an engineer to come in and kind of work out land, how he's going to plot it and set it up that way.
Tell me what it's like to live in Sabetha, Kansas.
Well, I love it here. It's fun. It's a very close community for the most part. There's some people here that I don't know at all, but a lot of the people I have known here, my entire life. And a lot of them still live here, or their parents live here, and it's just nice to know a lot of people like that. I really love that our community has a lot of churches. We have like 11 or 12 churches in this little town, and a lot of people, go to church, and we know each other that way too. So it's kind of very intimate.
Some people have never lived in a small town before. What's it like living in a small town? Pros and cons?
Okay, cons. Everybody knows your business. You cannot do anything. My dad used to tell me, what you do on Friday night, I know by Saturday morning, and he was not lying. Pros, you always have a neighbor that knows you, and they'll help you out in any way they can. You run out of gas, someone's going to stop and help you. You all know all of your kids' friends and their parents. So, and if you don't, you reach out and you get to know them real quick, and then you feel comfortable. And another pro, let's see. We have a lot of activities, even though there's not a lot of recreational, like movie theater or a bowling alley. We don't have a lot of things like that, but you can go to baseball games or soccer. There's we do have a lot of sports in town, which is great. So
like for fun, like what do people do through kids events, like for fun? I don't know, what do you guys do for entertainment in a small town?
We have a really nice pool. It's a fairly new facility, and there's slides and a big giant bubble you can bounce on. It's really cool. My kids, my son especially, likes to go out to the old lake, and they go on this rope swing and just go mess around out there. There's a lot of sporting events, through school, but also extracurricular things. Let's see, like my kids just went to church camp. They love that. Other than that, we do like to visit the city. So but we're close to, two fairly big cities, so within an hour. So we like doing that on the weekends when we don't have a lot going on here. So.
Do most people grow up and live here forever, or do they come and go?
Honestly, I think a lot of people leave. Their parents will stay, but a lot of people my age are gone. The majority of my graduating class is not here. There's a handful of us, but most of my close friends didn't grow up in Sabetha. So, maybe their husband might have been from the area, but the girls were not. So I feel like it's kind of a little bit of both. I think it depends on, kind of the people's time of life. A lot of people, I think, move back when they get a little older and maybe retire here. So.
But a lot of kids are leaving nowadays. They don't want to be here anymore. In the old days,
my son kind of talks about farming when he grows up, and he wants to do that here. So I think he'll stick around. He'll probably go to college and come back. A lot of people want to leave, but I feel like a lot of people appreciate it after they leave, and they're like, okay, Sabetha's not so bad.
Yeah.
So,
Are you looking to move and need advice? I do consulting. That's right. I'll sit down and talk about where the next perfect place for you and your family should be. I do it all the time. Together, let's find you a new home that's safe and checks all your boxes. You can get my email in the description to find out how I can help you find your perfect relocation. And I can also help you find your new house too. Email me and I'll work with you on not just helping you figure out where to move, but I can help you find your perfect home too. That's right. I know awesome, reliable agents all over the country, and I'd love to connect you to somebody who can help you search for that perfect home. Hey guys, if you learned something new about America or what it's like to live in America, great. You should think about subscribing and turning on your notifications. You can also click one of these videos or playlists for more. You can also now buy my songs on iTunes and other formats. Click the link in the description. Thanks for watching. And remember, while we all might have different views, we should all be nice to each other and try to make the U.S. a better place in a positive way.
This is Sage, Nick's manager. This has been a Corner House Entertainment production.